Welcome back to my YouTube channel. What we're going to talk about today is buyer's guides and buyer consultations and why they are so important, not just for clients, but for real estate agents. I can't tell you the amount of times when I was new in real estate where I went and took people out to showings where they didn't end up buying with me, or they had another real estate agent, or they didn't show up to the appointment because they weren't serious. So I'm going to talk about how you can qualify someone before you even meet them over the phone, and why it's so important to get them in the office or to meet you at like Starbucks or wherever you like to go and do a buyer consultation before you start showing them houses. So this is my buyer's guide. I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited about it. It has lots of good information in it. It's been going on for 5 years of my real estate career, and there's just so much jam-packed good information in here. And for me, because I have a niche market of Airbnb investments, and basically I try to focus on how you can own properties and live in them for free by having tenants, there's a lot of good extra information about Airbnb. So if you're a real estate agent and you're looking at this, make sure whatever is in your niche market is in here. And if you're a client looking at it and you're having a buyer consultation with an agent and you're wondering what to look for in that type of an interview, I would look for, do they have a special market? Are they qualified to work in the area that they say they're working in? And what information is in there besides just the home buying process? So good things about this is that there is a little bit of information about me as a real estate agent, my experience, awards I've won, that kind of thing. It talks about the technology I use a lot of Facebook, Instagram, Kijiji, that kind of thing. It talks about communication, which for me is so key in having a good relationship with buyers. So when I'm working with a buyer, communication is one of the #1 most important things for me. I need to know what they need, I need to know what they want, and I need to know what their goals are with the investment, whether it's a single family home or a condo or an Airbnb investment property. So for all of those things, is that you're going to be 100% satisfied. Why is that important? Because I need to make sure that these people feel really comfortable with buying a house. Is a really personal experience, and they need to be comfortable to tell me things that I need to know in order to get them a home that meets all their needs. So a little bit of page about me, and then I have a page that kind of talks about how it's all about you. So I really want the client to know that this experience is about them. It's not to do with me. The buyer consultation is not an hour of me plugging how awesome I am and all my experiences, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's really important that the buyer consultation is all about the buyer. So when people sit down with me, it pretty much is a really long interview about them. Now, if they ask me questions about myself, do I answer them? Yes, I do. But I try not to focus too much on myself because really I just need to get to know them. In the home search, pretty much I have another page, and it's your home search. And it kind of just talks about what you're getting when you work with a real estate agent, as opposed to trying to do it on your own. I can't even tell you how many buyers I've worked with that I met either at an open house or from a private showing that said they're trying to navigate the market on their own. Now, real estate markets are different all over Canada, but the real estate markets that are in London right now is a seller's market. So it's really difficult for buyers to navigate the market on their own unless they don't have a full-time job, and that is their full-time job. So the next page I have in the buyer consultation, which I find really helpful for people, is the home buying process. This one I try to ask them, have you bought a house before or not? And whether or not they have, that's how I decide how much of this I actually end up going through. Some people want to ask questions and literally to read every word in the buyer consultation, and that's okay. But you can always ask, how much information do you want? Have you done this before? Some people do not want to listen to everything that's in there, and some people will have already read it in advance, so they really don't want to sit there and watch you read a booklet. So you really want to have like a natural conversation with them and see where they're at and feel the situation out. So the next page I have is on the mortgage and loan process, and I'm going to do another video on why it's so important for you to be pre-qualified. It's very important, but this is where you can really suss out in the consultation, are they prepared? Do they actually have financing in place? If they don't, that's totally fine to do a buyer consultation without the financing sorted out, because that gives you an opportunity to recommend a trusted mortgage broker or them to go to their banks and really talk about what they might be able to buy. I find the buyer consultations are great for starting new relationships with people anyways. So when you sit down and you want to talk about finances, it kind of gives you an opportunity to like warm them up. Not everyone's going to want to tell you how much down payment they have right away. Not everyone is going to feel comfortable to start talking about money right away. It just really depends on how they were raised and how they view the conversation of money. So this really kind of warms them up to talk about that they're going to have to give this information to a mortgage broker, or they're gonna have to go into their bank or wherever they may choose to get financing, and they're gonna have to go through this process to start things rolling. You're gonna know right away as a realtor if they're serious about actually buying a house or where they're at from this conversation. So after you talk about the financing, the next thing you're gonna do is make sure they get pre-approved or pre-qualified. Some mortgage brokers hate when you say pre-approved because you can't get pre-approved without submitting a property, and I get that. But you want to make sure they're pre-qualified. They have the right amount for a down payment depending on what kind of house you're buying. So 5% for owner occupied or 20% for an investment property. There's all different variable things. I'm not going to go into that right now for this video, but I'm going to continue on with what's good for the buyer consultation. So the next page I have is making an offer. So when I get to this page, I usually say, we're going to look at a lot of properties. We're going to talk about your needs and wants. Do you need to talk about how to make an offer right now? I'm gonna walk them through making the offer. I'm gonna write the offer. I'm gonna do everything for them and pretty much hold their hand through the offer process. So I don't usually feel like I need to get into all these details because it just overwhelms them with too much information on the first sitting, but I tell them there's this extra information here that you can go through on your own. That way they have something to take home. Then closing 101 is another page that I don't really get into too much of detail on because they don't really need to know every single detail about how the deal closes during the buyer consultation. Some people will ask for it, but a lot of people, they're already like getting a lot of information from you and they're pretty tired by the end of the hour and they're like, whoa, I just got hit by a truck of information, right? So that's why it's so key to have something to give them to take home. If you're a buyer and your agent hasn't gone through this with you, you could ask them. I find sometimes that people, especially when I was new as a real estate agent, I would kind of forgo the buyer consultation if I was friends with someone. I don't do that anymore because I think it's so important before you work with someone to sit down and do this. This is like, I won't work with someone now without doing this. And that doesn't mean I don't work with people that aren't around here. I will do this buyer consultation over the phone. I will send this to someone in a PDF. I have a client moving from BC and I have another client moving from Nova Scotia. So like I literally deal with people all over Canada. So I send them the PDF and I sit them down either via FaceTime, Skype, or over the phone, and I go through the entire thing online. This is gonna help save you so much time as a real estate agent, but also so much time as a buyer. I can't stress how important this stuff is because once you've gone through here, for mine, I've gone through every question that I could possibly think of. And sometimes, especially if you really like have a good meeting with someone or you're friends with them or it's really easy to have conversations, it's very easy to get off track when you're doing a buyer consultation. So when you have this as your guide, you're like, okay, if you start talking about their kids or like the fact that they want to have a backyard fence for their dog, and then they start talking about how they got their dog. Like these conversations will go in so many directions because you're really getting to know each other. This will help you kind of like bring it back. Okay, so now we're gonna bring it back and make sure we ask all the questions. So the rest of them is basically 6 sheets of questions about what's the neighborhood, why do they like that neighborhood, all the things about them. And that sheets I don't actually put in this booklet because I keep those sheets. They get to take this booklet home. It not only looks really professional, people I've spoken to, like they feel like we're on the same page, which is really important when you're working with someone and making a purchase as big as a house. The last thing I put in my buyer consultation that I definitely recommend is what my clients say. I do put quotes from them, from Google reviews, from Facebook reviews. I get my assistant to copy and paste them into this. And I keep updating my buyer consultation every few months so that the referrals and the reviews are all current. The worst thing you could do is have one of these books from like 1995 with like a review from something that's totally irrelevant right now and hand this to someone and have them take it home and be like, was the last deal they did in like 2015? Like you want to present this with current referrals and reviews. And that's really easy to do. And that's another thing that I like to do with this book. I refer everyone back to my website. I refer everyone back. I say, you know what? Google me. Look on the internet, watch my YouTube videos, check those things out. Make sure that we're a good match because there's a realtor for every different type of person. and not everyone is going to be a good match together. So the best way to have a great experience in buying a house is making sure that you're a good match for your client. Thank you so much for watching this video on why it's so important to have a buyer consultation. I'm going to do another video about why it's so important to get pre-approved. If you like these videos and you find they're good quality, please drop a comment, drop a like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.